And it also delivers, that same infrastructure also delivers 5 IoT radios. And one of which, of course, is used for the peak cameras, is the sub-gig radio that I just alluded to a few minutes ago. But there's 4 other radios for being able to integrate other kinds of sensors and devices, not just in the self-storage unit, but also in a common area. So if you have cameras in a common area, you have door sensors, motion sensors, leak detectors, thermostats. A lot of operators care about energy consumption and saving operational costs. We can help them manage all of these devices, really any kind of operational facility-related parameter that they would care about. There's a device that we can provide that would measure and allow you to control it. So having that single pane of glass for the facility manager, but also for the corporate folks that want to look at 1, 2, or the entire fleet of their stores that are out there, is really key. That hasn't really existed for self-storage, and that's really what we provide. And Peak really is a slice of that overall smart storage platform that we provide.
Welcome to CRE Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals who work with investors, buyers, and sellers of commercial real estate coast to coast. Whether you're an investor, broker, lender, property manager, attorney, or accountant, we're here to learn from the experts.
Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CRE Radio. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jay Darren Gross. This is a podcast focused on commercial real estate investment and risk management strategies. Weekly, we have conversations with commercial real estate investors and professionals who provide their experience and insight to help you grow your real estate portfolio. Today's interview is sponsored by Building Insurance and Risk. When you invest in real estate, it pays to work with a real estate investor protection specialist to protect yourself and your investment from catastrophic loss. The experts at Building Insurance and Risk focus on real estate investor protection. They provide you with multiple insurance coverage offers and a side-by-side coverage comparison. To learn more, go to buildinginsuranceRisk.com. Today, my guest is Reza Raji. Reza is the Senior Vice President of Vantiva's Smart Spaces Internet of Things division. With a rich history of driving IoT innovation, Reza has transformed industries from smart homes to commercial enterprises. And in just a minute, we're going to speak with Reza about applications for Vantiva's new smart security camera, the Vantiva Peek, how it works, and its applications. But first, a quick reminder, if you like our show, CRE Radio, there are a couple things you can do to help us out. You can like, share, and subscribe. And as always, we encourage you to leave a comment. We'd love to hear from our listeners. Also, if you want to see how handsome our guests are, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube at Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. And while you're there, please subscribe. With that, I want to welcome my guest, Reza Raji. Welcome to CRE Radio.
Thanks, Darren. Good to be here.
Well, I'm looking forward to our conversation. But before we get started, if you could take just a minute and share with the listeners a little bit about your background.
Sure. So my background is really just over the years, I've gravitated towards obviously in technology, connecting sensors and devices to the internet. The broader term for that is Internet of Things, but for the past 25, 30 years, that's for some reason, for better or for worse, that's become my sweet spot. All things, products and services around connecting devices to the internet and all the benefits that come from that, right? So I've done that both in consumer space with a company called iControl, where we were the first mass market platform for all the service providers, cable companies, Comcast, Time Warner, even ADT Security, for them to deliver a branded white label service. It's branded differently by everyone. Comcast calls it Xfinity Home, ADT calls it ADT Pulse, so on and so forth. And I've done it in commercial space as well. And in particular, we're doing that right now at Vantiva for delivering the benefits of IoT for the commercial REITs.
Got it. So is Vantiva an IoT company primarily? Is that?
Yeah, so Vantiva traditionally has not been an IoT company. Vantiva is a new name for an old company called Technicolor. Technicolor's been around for over 100 years, as most people know it as the whole Hollywood post-production, special effects, video gaming company. That was spun out about 2 years ago. Vantiva also is the largest manufacturer of set-top boxes and gateways and other kinds of equipment for service providers. We sell to 150 service providers globally. So all sorts of manners of connectivity. And what we're doing, what Vantiva is doing now, it is through the division that I'm running. It's a new, really an endeavor for diversifying the business and taking that pedigree and connectivity and wireless and all things that come from connectivity and extending it to the IoT market, to the commercial space, by layering other things that you typically need on top of a box, right? Software, sensors, devices, portals, cloud, and delivering a turnkey solution for the various commercial verticals. And self-storage is really our first vertical that we're targeting. But the platform that we're developing is really a malleable platform for really any of those verticals, hospitality, multifamily, retail, so on and so forth.
Got it. Got it. Well, that's interesting. The background and pedigree of Vantiva. I had no idea.
Yep.
So the product that we were going to talk about here is the Peek camera. If you could tell us exactly what is it?
Yeah. So the Peak is our really Vantiva's first instantiation of taking that connectivity pedigree and really talking to customers of a particular market, in this case, self-storage, the operators, and designing something that fills a gap, a really much needed solution that really hasn't existed before. So Peak is really the name of the solution, which includes a camera, as you mentioned, and I'll talk about that in a second, but also the service. There's a mobile app that goes with it, but there's also an end-to-end cloud-based service, and it's all working together in harmony. And the purpose of the product is to deliver a new way for self-storage operators to generate recurring revenue, right? So traditionally, self-storage operators obviously make money by renting out self-storage spaces and units, but there's a few other ways, generally non-techie ways for them to also make recurring revenue. One is insurance. When you sign up for self-storage as a consumer, there's a checkbox that says, hey, do you want insurance on a monthly rate, 10, 15 bucks a month for protection of your stuff in case there's damage or theft. And also the other way they make money is points on, some of the larger operators give out loans to folks, and they make points on that, effectively a mortgage that they provide. But really, technology has not really addressed that recurring revenue need for growth of top line revenue for self-storage operators. And that's really what Peak does. It's a way for the operators, it's a solution for operators, to be clear, for them to deliver a solution to their customers, the renters, to be able to monitor and control and manage their storage unit from anywhere they are. It's the way we kind of phrase it is almost like taking a home smart camera, like a Ring, and there's many other ones now, and extending that to the self-storage facility that a consumer would have. So it's because, we think the consumers think of really of their self-storage unit as an extension of their attic or their basement or garage. And there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to keep tabs and be in touch and connected to those things that they're storing at a facility a couple of miles down the road anytime they want through the Peak solution.
Got it. So is the system then, is it branded as Peak, or is that something you guys white label and then brand for the facility?
Yeah, that's a good question. So left that flexible. Depends on the customer, the operator, the self-storage operator. The larger ones certainly want to obviously promote their brand, rightfully so. They've spent a lot of time and energy in developing their brand, and if they choose to do that, they can white label the product and call it whatever they want. It's up to them. We have a capability to white label both the app as well as the enclosure of the box that the unit comes from, as well as the logo on the unit. Some of the smaller or medium-sized operators may not care about that, or they don't want to spend the time and energy to do that, in which case, it's a Vantiva Peek, and they can certainly, we license the brand, they can use it all they want. So it's really up to them.
Got it. And so the basics then, as far as the hardware, you've got the camera that does it sit in the unit in the storage unit?
Yeah, so the product that I mentioned is really purpose built for self-storage. This is not your father's Oldsmobile. It's not the old camera that you can go buy on Amazon. It's not a typical Wi-Fi camera, right? So there's several key features in it that make it unique for self-storage. One of which is the mounting option that you alluded to. It's magnetically mounted. It's got a built-in magnet, very strong magnet. And the idea is that the device can just be, mounted on the back of a storage unit. And typically storage units almost all the time have metal walls and metal doors. And it's just mounted in the back center wall, or really anywhere that the user wants it to be, of the unit, very simply, without having to use any kind of, tools or mounting arms or stands or anything like that. A couple other features in the product that are unique, that make it unique for self-storage, is that it's not just a camera, it's also got a motion sensor, which throttles the camera. You can take images based on motion. It's got a temperature sensor and a humidity sensor. So these are environmental sensors that typically you care about in a self-storage environment, because if you're storing something that's sensitive to heat or humidity, you want to know about it. If it's wine or food or artwork or furniture that matters. Now, the temperature and humidity are optional for the operator. If they choose to expose that to the consumer, they can. Otherwise, they can just deal with the camera and a motion sensor. Two other core features I talk about. One is the fact that this is not a Wi-Fi camera. We use a special radio in this device to give us the range that we need, the challenging environment of self-storage, because I said it's metal walls, metal doors, metal ceilings, concrete. So signals, Wi-Fi in particular, has a hard time getting through these obstacles. To be able to cover 100,000, multi-100,000 square foot facility, you need something that really can do the job. And we have a special radio that goes long distances through many of these challenges. At the same time, it's got a battery life of over 2 years, right? So we wanted to solve the problem of, look, there's typically no outlets and no power in these self-storage units. You can't have a camera that plugs into the outlet. This device works on 4 AA batteries for over 2 years. So that's really game changing, and that's really hard to do. So there's a lot of, when I talked about our pedigree and connectivity, that's what I meant. Is not only is it able to communicate and penetrate through these walls and metal obstacles, but also have the battery life that really is suitable for self-storage.
No, that's great. I was going to ask, the challenge with a lot of that stuff is either you have to hardwire it, or the batteries, how long are the batteries, or you got to recharge it, or
Right.
then the connectivity to the
Mhm.
whether you cable it or Wi-Fi. You've already alluded to the limitations that has, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's funny. You mentioned the radio frequency. Before I got into insurance right out of college, I worked for Motorola, and I had to
Mm.
learn all about the radio frequency spectrums there, and but that
Yep.
was a long time ago. But anyway,
Yeah.
the fact that you're able to utilize that. So then, do you have then? Is there like a centrally located antenna that receives a signal then, and then that's
Right.
hardwired to where people can
Yeah.
access that,
So
or is that?
that's right. So part of the solution that we offer is an infrastructure that we put into a place, into a facility, and we spec and design and deploy that fully as Vantiva. And that infrastructure, yes, it supports the radio backhaul and the communication for these peak cameras. But it also does a couple other things if and when a self-storage operator cares about, right? So it delivers site-wide Wi-Fi if they choose to want to have that and pay for it. And that's quite a high quality, high fidelity Wi-Fi because of our connectivity pedigree. We're really good at doing that. And it also delivers, that same infrastructure also delivers 5 IoT radios. And one of which, of course, is used for the peak cameras, is the sub-gig radio that I just alluded to a few minutes ago. But there's 4 other radios for being able to integrate other kinds of sensors and devices, not just in the self-storage unit, but also in a common area. So if you have cameras in a common area, you have door sensors, motion sensors, leak detectors, thermostats. A lot of operators care about energy consumption and saving operational costs. We can help them manage all of these devices, really any kind of operational facility-related parameter that they would care about. There's a device that we can provide that would measure and allow you to control it. So having that single pane of glass for the facility manager, but also for the corporate folks that want to look at one, two, or the entire fleet of their stores that are out there, is really key. That hasn't really existed for self-storage, and that's really what we provide. And Peak really is a slice of that overall smart storage platform that we provide.
Got it. With regards to the different things you can capture, obviously the video, is it color? Is it black and white? What's the...
Yeah, good question. A couple other features I didn't talk about on the Peak camera. It's got a high def image sensor. It's 130-degree field of view. So basically you can capture the entire self-storage unit, really, regardless of where it's installed. It's a wide angle lens. It's color, but it also has night vision, because the other characteristic of self-storage is typically the unit is in pitch black darkness. There's no light there. So if something happens in there, you want it to be able to operate and take pictures in total darkness, and it has a night mode that it can do that, infrared. And of course, if it's pitch black, then it switches over to black and white, because that's how infrared imagery works. But if there's light, the door opens, somebody comes in or turns on the light manually. If there is a light in the unit, then it will switch over to color.
Got it. Any audio capture?
No, well, we
No.
chose not to put a microphone in there, or a speaker for that matter. It doesn't mean we can't do it, because the technology that we have in there can't support that. We just chose not to, because we frankly did not get the feedback from all the operators we spoke to that was a critical need. It's a nice to have for sure, but not a must have. And we really want to focus on pain points here. So we didn't do that. Doesn't mean we can't do it later down the road and add it to another feature version of the product, but this current product doesn't have that.
Got it. So let me ask you a question. This is kind of a insurance thought, but I know that some of the Internet of Things devices have created opportunity for outsiders to gain access to network, et cetera. Can you talk about what the measures are, or how the product works with respects to avoiding that
Security.
type of situation?
Yeah, security and privacy. Absolutely. Yeah. That's the other thing we're really good at as Vantiva, is that we've delivered hundreds of millions of boxes and gateways, if not more, to all these service providers, 150 of them, as I mentioned earlier. So the platform and the pedigree that we have around that has been battle hardened. So you can imagine, the Googles of the world, Deutsche Telecoms and Comcast and Time Warners, all these guys that really are very specific and particular about security and privacy, have pushed us for years quite hard to make sure we use the maximum level of security and privacy capabilities in these products. And we're doing the same thing here in the IoT division for Vantiva Smart Spaces division. We have security and authentication and privacy at every level, at the device level, at the gateway level, and at the cloud level. Not just passwords and user IDs and credentialing, which obviously is there, but authentication and encryption that you need, because now you're storing sensitive data. You're storing images, even though it's not consumer home images, it's still private images. And we limit access, right? So even the facility operators can't look at the images. The images belong to the renter, right? And they're protected. Nobody can look at that. It's very tightly controlled. The site manager can't look at it. We can't look at it. Nobody can, only the user. So we've been very particular and meticulous about that. Obviously, on a call like this, we can't dive into the technology layers of it, but we've done this. And really, the folks that we've gathered together, the cast of characters, the crew and the team, come from spaces where the security and privacy has mattered. I mean, I mentioned my prior company, iControl. we're delivering that solution for all the cable operators, for smart home and smart home automation and home security. When you sell things to people like ADT, it's got to work and it's got to be rock solid and it's got to be secure and go through audits. And we're doing the same thing here at Vantiva.
Got it. What about the capture, the video that it captures? Is there a length of time that stays on the memory, or how long is that video or whatever activity
Right.
that it captures? How long is that recording
Yep.
available?
Yep. So to be clear, this device, the Peek camera, actually takes images, not video. It either takes single images based on motion or schedule, or it can take a burst of images based on motion or schedule, right? And the reason we opted to do that is we felt, and also based on a lot of feedback from operators, that video, it's a nice to have. Again, it's not a must have. What people care about is they knowing who came into their self-storage unit. Was it family member? Was it a site manager? Was it an intruder? Was it a large animal? Not necessarily look at high def video. So if you can take an image based on motion or a series of images, and you can dictate what the latency is between each image and the latency is for the first image, so you can program that through your mobile app, configure that as a setting, that is more than sufficient, right? Now, to your question, those images sit in the cloud, sit in the server, and they can sit there technically indefinitely. But it's up to the operator how long they want it to, and that's a programmable feature of the platform, is the operator can choose how long they want to keep the images up there for the renter to be able to access them. Typically, a few months is more than sufficient, because this is not something like, it's not like vacation photos. You want to go back 5 years later and look at what happened in my self-storage unit. It's really, I want to know what happened last week or last, 3 days ago, based on some activity.
Right. So on the application of the product here, we've been talking about the indoor facility primarily.
Mhm.
Could you use the same product in an outdoor application?
Yes, not this particular product. The functionality is such that, yes, it could work indoor and outdoor, and in fact, actually be a different kind of a use case, because the temperature and humidity sensors could give you a very different kind of a thing outdoors.
Right.
This product wasn't designed for outdoor use. It's an indoor product. Again, it doesn't mean we can't convert and have another version of it down the road for outdoors. And, talking to operators, we're talking to a lot of RV and boat storage operators that have outdoor, either canopied or not canopied storage areas, and they want to be able to use this. They're very excited about this. So for the boat and RV guys, where there's an enclosed storage unit, they can use this, obviously, because it's covered. But the outdoor ones, if it's canopied, probably could, but if it's an open area, you can't. And again, it's only because it's not IP65 rated. It's not rated for dust and water.
Right.
But again, this is the first instantiation of what we're envisioning for smart storage. So there's more to come.
Got it. So the way the product is essentially being marketed to the consumer then is through the operator of the facility. Is that?
Well, that's a fantastic question. I probably should have answered that at the beginning, or should have addressed it at the beginning. So the product is intended for operators. Our customers at Vantiva are self-storage operators. So if you're a self-storage operator, you want to know more about this, reach out to us, right? We want to deliver this as a tool, as a solution to help the operators deliver a really stellar consumer experience to their renters, but also generate new revenue through a subscription, through a service, right, for them. So it's a B2B, it's a business that we sell to operators, and they in turn sell the camera and the service to their renters, just like they sell insurance to their renters, but the insurance is probably covered by another company, right? So that's really what it is. It's a way for operators to pull in new customers, because they have a connected, smart, modern self-storage unit that's monitorable, but also for them to generate new revenue, new recurring revenue, which they're dying to do based on on the feedback that we've gotten.
Got it. With
Mhm.
the self-storage, facility asset class, I mean, the turnover, I mean, I think it's fairly high in that people use it for a period of time and then maybe, need it, don't need it kind of thing.
Yep.
Are the cameras then, or is the unit and the access reprogrammable then so that you can have somebody else use it, or is it still the whoever used it last is still watching the new stuff, or how?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. So there's two ways to deploy this. The operators could choose to pre-install these devices in all their units. So it's always there and it doesn't move. And if a renter chooses to enable that service, they'll turn that camera on and they can monitor it. If not, otherwise it just stays dormant. The model that, frankly, we think is better than that, really, it's up to the operator. But I think the better model is having something that they sell directly to the renter at the time of rental when they sign the contract, both the camera as well as the service. This way, they can make margin on the device itself. And we think, the MSRP on the camera is around $60 or $70 MSRP, but they can sell it for whatever they want, I guess. And we think the sweet spot is around $14 per month. That's based on all of our research and all our feedback. That's the maximum bang for the buck in terms of converting customers to use it. So we think if they sell it upfront as a product like that, then it becomes a consumer's owned product, just like a smart home camera would be. They can put 4 AA batteries in it, which it comes with. They can magnetically install them in the back of the unit wherever they want. They can position it. The app that we have helps them through that process of where do you position it, take a test image, take a test motion to see what kind of image it takes. Very quickly, in a few minutes, it can get set up and configured. And then it's theirs, right? They own it. They engage with it better as opposed to walking into a storage unit and seeing a camera in a corner. It's like, oh, who's looking at my stuff? We personally feel it's better if it's delivered as a product that the consumer initially buys and engages with and uses over time. But again, from a technology and implementation point of view, it's really up to the operator how they want to deploy it.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there thinking about the batteries.
Yep.
If you made it the owner's responsibility, that would seem to be a better standpoint from a liability of the operator as opposed to you didn't change
Right.
my you let my batteries,
That's a good point. I know you
kind of thing.
focus on risk a lot and liability is always on your mind, but yeah, I think when you deliver it as a consumer product, then they also understand that the image is their camera, right? Their images is
Right.
their images and nobody else is in there mucking around with it, right? And of
Yeah.
course, with the battery, the device tells you it needs a battery change after 2+ years. So the next time they're at the self-storage facility at their unit, they can just put in 4 new AA batteries in there. And of course, that would be another item the operators could sell at the front office, AA batteries
Right.
in addition to the
Yeah.
cameras that they
There
could
you
sell.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Uh, so what's an ideal, opportunity for Vantiva with regards to like a storage facility and number of units
Yeah.
that would kind of your sweet spot?
Uh, we don't really have a sweet spot. I think the average number of storage units per facility in the US is around 650, 600 to 650. There's 52,000 facilities, self-storage facilities in the US. It's a large market, right? Now, there's a long tail. So I think the top 5 or top 7 are maybe 30% of the market, something like that. So there's a lot of self-storage brands that have hundreds or dozens of units. But we don't care. We talk to everybody, and everybody we've talked to has loved this product and what it does. And frankly, we're frustrated because we can only talk about this product under NDA for a long time because it was in development. There's a bunch of patents that we filed for it. There's a lot of new things in it that we're doing. We couldn't openly talk about it, right? So now that it's the cat's out of the bag as of a couple of weeks ago, we can talk about it. The reaction has been phenomenal in terms of getting people. What's exciting when we're doing it under NDA, everybody wanted to try it and do a pilot with it. Now that it's out in this public, we're getting a lot of inbounds of folks saying, "Holy moly, we've thought about this 5 years ago, 8 years ago, but there was nothing on the market to do this," or this is really intriguing and our customers are asking for this. When can we try it? So, so I think it's the peace of mind that we're talking about is not uncommon, right? You see it in homes with insurance, you see it in cars, now self-storage. Being able to deliver that peace of mind is really the core of what we're trying to do. It's about not just mitigating, risk, insurance liability and risk, but also delivering that peace of mind and that comfort of knowing your stuff is stored properly. I think the majority of self-storage renters think about their stuff. I think something like 70% think about their stuff that's in storage a couple of times a week, right? And oftentimes they go back to make sure it's all there, it's all good. And now they can do that quite easily with the Peak product and have that peace of mind quite economically.
Got it. On the radio receiver piece that's kind of central to the facility, is that something that you sell to the operator then, or is that something that
Yes.
you? Okay.
Yes.
All
We
right.
sell the infrastructure. So we typically we work with operators. We get a floor plan of their facilities. We spec it out, and we if they choose to make it go, we go ahead and actually install and deploy the infrastructure. It's not that difficult or that expensive, really. The ROI for that upfront infrastructure cost is about 4 months. So the ROI is phenomenal, right, for this product, given the recurring revenue that it has. So if there is a need for that upfront infrastructure, because you have to have that for this product to work and work reliably. But it's a no-brainer when you look at the math around it. It pays for itself quite rapidly, and after that first initial couple of months, it's a very high margin product for the operators to resell.
Right. And as far as the size of the piece of equipment for the receiver that the operator owns, I'm assuming it's how big is it? Is it something like a TV set box, or I don't know what the.
No. It's really it's a gateway device that's has all the radios I mentioned to you. It's got 8 radios in a one box because it does Wi-Fi, multi channels of Wi-Fi, and 5 IoT radios. Uh, uh, and that product is size of a typical access point, but it's a commercial grade access point. It's indoor, outdoor friendly. It's weather resistant, and the way it gets power and all that. It's really designed for commercial deployments. And we put a network of those devices in a self-storage facility, right? Because it covers and blankets the entire facility with the RF, with the wireless signals that it emanates. So typically it's about one of these every 10,000 or so square feet. It's a really high power device. So it's not a high cost infrastructure, nor does it take a long time to deploy, right? So because we have some unique technology where it can be deployed in a hybrid fashion, either wired or wireless. It can just mesh together and form a network quite quickly. So that has not been any kind of a distraction for any of the operators. They really care about the light at the end of the tunnel, which is the generating the new recurring revenue that they've been really hungry for.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Beyond the storage facility asset class, have you had interests in, or are you looking at any of the other asset classes for the application?
Yeah, absolutely. We are, as I mentioned earlier, we're developing a platform for self-storage, but by no means is that the only space we're going after. So self-storage just happens to be the first commercial vertical, or REIT asset class that we're going after. Really, we're architected and designed the platform to be malleable and flexible for other verticals. So The second vertical and beyond that we do is going to use 80 to 90% of the same solution and the same platform that we developed for self-storage. What's going to change is perhaps some UI, user interface, and UX, user experience on the portal side, and maybe supporting some additional devices on the device and sensor side. Multifamily is of very high interest to us, multifamily in apartment buildings. One, because they already understand the value of Wi-Fi and managed Wi-Fi, which we're good at Vantiva. And a lot of our customers deploy our equipment. A lot of service providers deploy our equipment already in multifamily. But if you extend beyond that, IoT then, getting into the common areas of an apartment building or the actual apartment units is not that far away from what we do in self-storage. I mean, we kind of joke around, internally that self-storage is kind of like apartment buildings without the tenants, right? But if you think about it, you have a facility of self-storage, which is like an apartment building, and you have these units for the storage units, which are like apartments, and you have common areas as well. You got hallways and the front lobby and so on and so forth. So the solution is absolutely reusable. And again, when you go to other verticals, hospitality, similar. You got individual units, you got common areas. You go to retail, it's a little bit different, but same thing that we can replicate and use. And that's quite unique, right? There aren't too many platforms for IoT and connectivity that are malleable like that, that you can apply to multiple verticals. And that's really, I think, the thing we're most proud of is doing the hard work and heavy lifting to deliver a multi-disciplinary solution like that's not easy to do. It's really hard to do, right? And that's the team that we have and the pedigree that we have as a company to put that together.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, the product, the applications and uses that the potential it has. It sounds interesting. Love to hear more about it here as you continue to grow, and we'll have to keep in touch on that.
Absolutely.
Hey, Rez, if we could, I'd like to shift gears here for a second.
Sure.
As I mentioned to you earlier, by day I'm an insurance broker. And as such, I work with my clients to assess risk and determine what to do with the risk.
Yep.
And there's three strategies we typically consider. We first look to see if we can avoid the risk. When that's not an option, we look to see if there's a way we can minimize the risk.
Mhm.
And if we cannot avoid nor minimize the risk, then we look to see if we can transfer the risk. And that's what an insurance policy is. It's a risk transfer vehicle.
Yep.
And as such, I like to ask my guests if they can look at their own situation. It could be your clients, technology, the whatever the public or the local laws are, or whatever it may be that you consider to be the biggest risk.
Mhm.
And again, for clarification, while I'm an insurance broker, I'm not necessarily looking for an insurance-related answer. And so if you're willing, I'd like to ask you, Reza Raji, what is the biggest risk?
For the operator you're talking about?
For however you want to,
Yeah.
capture it's up to you.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to insurance and risk at self-storage, there's fundamentally two, right? There's the facility insurance and liabilities related to facilities. There's rain damage or there's intrusion and somebody steals stuff off the front store, things like that. And of course, there is the unit, the renter's possessions that are at risk of somebody coming in and stealing them or even getting damaged, right, through water or storm or something like that. And there's insurance products, as you know better than I do, insurance products for both of those, right? And the platform that we have for smart storage is really designed to deliver that peace of mind and that risk mitigation, if you will, for both common area and the smart unit in self-storage. For alerting in a timely fashion that there's a water leak, as you know, water damage builds rapidly in terms of cost if it's not detected early. If there's intrusion, you want to know as soon as possible. Somebody's broken into a facility or somebody's broken into a storage unit. So all of that is really that peace of mind that I was talking about, both for the self-storage operator as well as the renter. And we're actually talking to part of our customer base is insurance companies that deliver insurance products for self-storage, right? Believe it or not, because they understand the value. I mean, look, 15 years ago, it would be a 15-minute session or a 30-minute session to explain the value of smart cameras and what that does. We know ring doorbells, sorry, not what they do, what benefits they provide the consumer. We don't have to do that. People understand what they can do with a Ring doorbell, what they can do with a Nest, camera, what it does. What we do need to do is package that and convey that and deliver that for self-storage tenants. And I think that peace of mind and that risk reduction is something the insurance companies are very interested in right now in self-storage, because it augments and enhances the insurance product they're selling. Not only that, but also it reduces the risk liability that they're on the hook for. It's the same way that insurance, residential insurance companies, home insurance companies give a discount if you have a monitored security system. That's the same thing. That hasn't happened yet, but we foresee that going in that direction. It's like, why not pass on some of that savings to the customer, because now there's a way to monitor and manage that risk.
Yeah, no, that's great, and it is interesting just how the perception's changed about that, and everybody understands what it is. That's good. Hey, Rez, where can the listeners go if they'd like to learn more or connect with you?
Yeah, so they can go to Vantiva website. Vantiva, and there's a smart spaces section of the website they can learn about. They can also look for Peek on our website. Peek as in P-E-E-K, as in take a peek of your self-storage. And they can absolutely, and I encourage everybody to go and follow the Vantiva Smart Spaces LinkedIn page. And by all means, reach out to me and connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Happy to make that connection and obviously answer any questions as well.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, Reza Raji, I cannot say thanks enough for taking the time to talk today. I've enjoyed it, learned a lot, and look forward to doing it again soon.
Thanks, Darren. That was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
You got it. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.
You're listening to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals. For more information on this or any of our guests, like us on Facebook, CREPN Radio.